Hi, Steph. Thank you so much
Hello.
for joining me at Spotlight today. Would you care to introduce yourself to everyone who doesn't know you yet?
Yes, absolutely. So my name is Steph. I'm the CEO and co-founder of a business called Girls on the Go. What Girls on the Go does is we try to make the UK a less lonely place and help women make friends. I really struggled with loneliness in my early adulthood life. I mean, I'm 23, but still, yeah, I think it was really, really hard. So I want to make sure that no one goes through what I did.
Well, that's really noble. And you mentioned you're only 23. That's amazing. You also mentioned that a lot, being a Gen Z founder and an entrepreneur, which is really admirable. I'm 32, so I'm not in my 20s anymore. I was just thinking
Mhm.
back to the time when I was in my 20s that I was more preoccupied with following the traditional kind of like, do your studies, get a job, kind of stay
Yeah.
in that for 10 years kind of thing. What do you break away from that set journey or societal expectations of that?
I think it's absolutely reasonable and fine to have a set journey. I think we're so ingrained since we're like 12 of you need to choose these GCSEs, these A levels, this degree, this job. I think we're expected to have mapped out everything. And I think that's really stressful. I remember really because I originally wanted to go to medical school and I missed out by like 2% on my A levels and I thought life was literally over. I was like, oh my God, I was supposed to be a doctor. I was supposed to have this career. And I just kind of wish I could go back to 17-year-old me who found out that it's okay. You're fine. So I think it's absolutely fine to have an idea, but also be open to change because it's very rare that it's going to go 100% according to plan. So,
Yeah, that's really reassuring to hear. Speaking of expectations, you touched upon your own ones that you wanted to go to medical school and you wanted to be a doctor. Were there other expectations, for example, societal ones or personal ones from the people around you that you had to push against to go your own way?
oh, I mean, two big ones. I think my parents and me, to be fair, always envisioned that I would be like a STEM girly. So like medicine, or I ended up doing biomed at university and I did enjoy it. But after uni, I knew that that wasn't what I wanted to do. And I think the expectation is that you should do what you've done in your degree and you have to use it. And I felt kind of bad that I was not doing what I set out to do in my degree. It was like a whole personality shift of like, I'd pictured myself as a woman in STEM and now I'm not a woman in STEM. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've lost myself. I've obviously not. I just think as women, we're not expected to be in positions of power. It's very looked down upon to be quite high up in any job or just not taken as seriously. That's an expectation society has about women. Even in our company, we're three co-founders. Two of us are women and Martin is a man. A lot of the time people expect it's run by him rather than me. And that's frustrating. But it's something you have to get to grips with. Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine. I followed a similar journey, so that's quite funny. I studied biochem, and now I'm nowhere near. Like now, I work in marketing. So um,
Yeah.
yeah, but I do remember a few points in my journey where I've been like, oh, maybe things would have worked out better if I'd followed that path. If there been moments like that where you've been like, maybe I should have followed that. And how did you get over those moments?
Yeah, I think the main one was medicine because I think by now I probably would have finished medical school and I would have had a clear trajectory of what life is going to look like. And now it's very exciting what I do, but I don't know what the next 5 years will look like. So I think that's my big issue, I suppose. I don't know what life is going to look like, but I also don't think I would have known what life would have looked like if I went to medical school. I think I've just got that in my head that I would.
That makes sense. Let's move on to your brand or how you present yourself online because I really admire how you always show yourself in the most real way possible.
Mhm.
You always say what you think. I think that's so admirable. especially on a
Thank you.
platform like LinkedIn that's supposed to be all professional. Do you ever struggle with finding that balance of how much of yourself to share online?
Yeah, I think because I want to be, as like you said, as honest and real as possible. Because I think social media is such an illusion of like, oh, everything's great. Like I've said in multiple of my posts, like some of our best months on social media when I'm literally in the depths of hell and I'm like, oh my God. And I just think it's nice to share that with people. But I do think there's an expectation of always being really vulnerable. And when I'm not being vulnerable, when I'm going through like the hard time, I'm like, oh, I'm lying to people. I should be sharing that I'm literally crying every day. And then I just think I don't have time to process what I'm actually going through because I'm trying to present it in a way that's like palatable to people, especially on a platform like LinkedIn. I can say that I'm having a mental breakdown, but you still have to be palatable and not too much, because if you're too emotional, then you're crazy. So yeah, I think that's really hard to find a balance. I think it's just really hard to be 100% transparent all the time. There's a lot of topics that I talk about, and it's things that I haven't fully processed yet either. So yeah, it's just finding a balance of not being too vulnerable that it's a detriment to me.
I can see that it's a really hard line, right? If someone else was coming to you with that question, I don't know, Steph, how to show enough of myself that I'm relatable and that I stand for something. But on the other hand, I don't want my whole personal life to be public like that. What would you say to them?
I would say to definitely establish boundaries in whatever you do. I think it's important. There's such a thing as oversharing just to try and be relatable and empathetic. It comes to a detriment to yourself because you haven't processed it and you haven't understood what's going on. I think it's okay to present it in hindsight rather than right when you're going through it. You need to put yourself first and have boundaries with what you're willing to share with people, not just on the internet, but in real life.
And what would you say those boundaries are for you? What is a hard, I'm never going to post about that online?
Ooh, I don't know if there's anything I wouldn't. The topics that I struggle with in terms of being honest about it is one of the reasons that helped me start Girls on the Go. I was so lonely in uni, and then I was raped by one of my only friends at the time. It took me up until now to actually say the words and be like, okay, this has actually happened. I would never share details about what happened because I just don't think that's appropriate and needed. So that's something that I really struggle with, because then I'm like, but people are going to ask questions and they're going to be like, oh, what happened? And I just have to be willing to be like, this is the fact, but I'm not going to go deeper into what happened. So it's just
Yeah,
important to me to set that boundary.
I understand. I'm really sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
It's so impressive that you turned that kind of energy into doing something really
Mhm.
positive.
That's why thank you. I think that fills me with purpose of, not that it was all worth it. It definitely wasn't. But I'm like, I don't want to dwell on it, and I'd rather use it in a positive way because my 19-year-old self would have needed that. So that's kind of how I view it.
Well,
Thank you.
speaking of Girls on the Go, it's all based on community to lift each other up and to feel less lonely. But I do get the feeling that that word is everywhere online nowadays. That
Yeah, it is.
everyone wants to be a community. It's like join a community and so on. But what does real community mean to you, and what is just, basically bullshit?
I like it. I don't think every brand and every business has a community. I think they have like a loyal following. I think that's where people are getting the difference mixed. You can have a really loyal following, but you might not have a community. And I think to me, community is more the people within the following feel connected to each other. There are some brands that you might buy their clothes, but you might not feel connected to other people who buy their clothes. All brands could have a community, but they need to connect their customers together. And that's what we try and do, is connect our customers together.
Really good answer.
Oh, thank you.
And speaking of, what are some mistakes or misconceptions that you've seen women especially make when they've tried to build a community online or offline, or like the other way around? Can you give a good example of when it's been done really well and they've been an example to you?
Oh, I think no specific examples, but I think running brands in particular are quite good. So Nike or whatever, to have a running community because they've got that shared experience together. I think they do that quite well because you actually meet up if you have a run club, for example, and you all like running and you all like Nike, for example. I think that works really, really well. One mistake, in my opinion, is rewarding only influencers with PR packages or gifting. I think that's something we should all shy away from a bit more. Why would you reward people that probably haven't even bought from your brands before? Whereas as a customer, if I bought Nike shoes all the time and I had 20 pairs, I would feel honored to be invited to an event. If they gift it to an influencer that's never worn Nike, I would be like, oh, damn. I get why they do it, but I think that's something that brands should, in my opinion, stay away from.
What I'm hearing is like we shouldn't elevate and give worth to certain members of the community over others.
Yeah. Or just given kind of more equal opportunities to everyone.
That makes a lot of sense. And would you call yourself, let's say, successful in what you're doing right now?
To be honest, no, not yet. I don't think I would. One of my friends, we were at Nespresso today and she was like, oh, she runs a successful brand. And I was like embarrassed. And I was like, no, I don't think I have. I would say I feel like we have successes, but I don't think I'm successful yet. I hopefully will be, but I wouldn't describe myself as successful right now.
And what would that look like to you if you were successful?
I think I would be at a place where I'm not so in the brand 24/7 all the time. I think if I could take a step back and actually appreciate what we've done and go on a weekend away and not worry about the brand, I think then I would feel like it's successful. It runs not just purely, not obviously it's not just me, but that I don't have to be involved 24/7 in it. I think that would be a good metric for success. I think there's a lot, but that would be a big one for me.
Now, that's really cool because I already see the difference between me as a millennial woman. And of course, I'm generalizing like crazy here. For a Gen Z person to be like, well, I'm not talking about a job title, I'm not talking about a pay grade, or like, oh, when I'm at this point in my career, then I'm successful. So that's really cool to see, because I would have definitely 5 years ago said like, oh, when I've made it to CMO or head of marketing.
Yeah.
How do you see that? Who are the most successful women that you see around you? Who do you want to be like?
I think my definition of successful is when they're really happy in what they do and they seem to be really enjoying what they do. Because I think a lot of people like have big titles and things and big pay grades, but they actually hate their job and they're miserable. To me, that's not really success. It's financial success or career success, but it's not really success to me. So I think some of my friends who are in jobs that might not be like the highest paying, but they're absolutely obsessed with their life and they're really, really happy. Other very successful women not around me, like Grace Beverly. I think she's like the definition of successful woman to me. I would love to meet her one day. But yeah, I think just people who are happy. Sounds so cringe, but yeah.
I think it's not, though. I think that's a really nice evolution of this whole success thing, because I'm of the girl boss kind of hustle grind. You're going to make it. You're going to be like basically one of the guys, right? Which is hollow success.
Yeah.
Well, what you're talking about is actually enjoying what you do, which sounds really simple, but it's not actually what's been top of mind for women in the last few decades. So I think that's really powerful.
Yeah. My mom, so she recently left her job that she was in for like 30 years and she's never been happier. She used to work at the ILO in the United Nations and had a slay job, but she didn't enjoy it very much. And now she writes quizzes and she's absolutely over the moon. And I'm just like, that to me is more successful than the really high paying job that she was in before.
Yeah, really
yeah.
cool. And like, speaking of, I mean, I've talked about a few differences that I've seen. Have you seen, apart from your mom as an example, differences in different generations of women and how they're approaching their careers nowadays?
I think women are realizing that we can do a lot more than we were always told we could do. I see a lot more women striving to have the confidence of a white man. They're like, oh, I will just apply to that job. I might not be super qualified, but I believe that I've got the qualities to be great. And I do think we've got a bit more audacity, if you will, like a bit more, why can't I do it kind of attitude.
Yeah, for any woman who's listening and thinking like, okay, I want to do something bold. I want to quit my job that's not making me happy, but I
Yeah.
don't really know where to start. Like, what would you say?
See, I don't know if it's good or bad advice, but my kind of motto is just fuck it, we ball. I'm just like, what's the worst that can happen? Obviously, there is a lot of things that can happen, but I just think life is too short to be in a job that you hate and be miserable for 90% of your life. I just don't think it's worth it. So before I started Girls on the Go, I was in a job that paid quite well and I worked 28 hours and I was like, great, fantastic. But I didn't enjoy it very much. And I'd much rather take a risk and flop than not take the risk. If you don't try, then the chances of you succeeding are zero. But if you do try, they might not be huge, but they're going to be higher than zero. You should just try and do what you love, because what's the point otherwise? Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Oh, I love that. That's really nice. And another question came up while you're talking. What is the most rewarding thing about Girls on the Go in your journey?
I think it's just knowing that we actually tangibly help improve people's lives. I think obviously all businesses want to succeed and do really well, and like it's great to have high profits or whatever, but I have a little folder on my phone. It's like messages that I've received saying like, you saved my life, or I've met my best friend and I was so lonely. And I think genuinely knowing that if I had a group or community like this when I was 19, I would not have been so depressed and miserable. And I think that keeps me going. Seeing it tangibly when people message me is amazing. The business could fail tomorrow and I would still feel satisfied and happy with what we've done.
Yeah, I think that's a good advice for anyone from when they've started, to keep a record of what keeps you motivated. These are the reasons why I'm doing this, kind of thing.
Yeah, even, I mean, I do this all the time of like pros and cons list of just like, there's a reason you might want to be doing something. Sometimes the cons when you run a business can be really big, but the pros tend to outweigh it. I just like to live life like that. Even if there's one more pro than a con, I will do it, because I just think, why not?
Cool. And how do you see Girls on the Go evolving in the coming years? You said it's difficult for you to envisage where it's going, but I would love to see your ideal vision of it.
Right now, we're a year and I think 8 months, 9 months old. So, say in the next 5 years, ideally, we would be in at least 10 major cities across the UK. In the next 10 years, I would like to be in all major cities in the UK. That'd be really cool. Just to help the whole of the UK feel less lonely. The dream for me would be if a woman is struggling to make friends or feels lonely, she would know, oh, I can go to Girls and Go. Like how people think of sport and they think Nike, or soft drink, they think Coca-Cola. That's what I would ideally want. That would be the dream.
I really love that you're so ambitious. It's really nice.
Yeah.
Really wanting to work towards, isn't it? Another question popped up. Did you read into or research the benefits of in-person meetups, and Why did you choose to go down the route of in-person meetups versus creating an online community?
I think one of the reasons I felt so lonely at uni was because it was like just 9 months after COVID started. We were all in our rooms, not talking to anyone. All of the lectures were online. It was convenient, but I really craved talking to someone face to face. I missed it so much. One day we will probably do community events online, but especially with the rise of AI, we need in-person things so much more. Like, it's so much nicer to be able to do it, even if it's a bit more effort. I just think it's really important, and you just feel a bit closer to the person. So yeah, it was a no-brainer. I was like, I'm sick of Zoom and I'm sick of online calls. We're gonna do it in person. So
Cool. Great. Well, that was it for my question. Do you want to add anything or give a call to action to people to join Girls on the Go?
well, if anyone does feel lonely or want to make friends, I would strongly recommend coming to one of our events. I think it's amazing. There's so many more community focused brands like us as well that are up and coming or have been going for ages. And it's so nice to see that there's just, if you are feeling lonely, there is a lot of spaces to go to. And I just think that's amazing. I prefer if you came to Girls on the Go, but yeah, it is kind of my dream job. I think back to when I thought I wanted to go to medical school, and I'm like, oh my God, I would have hated that, because I've always been really obsessed with women's rights and feminism, and I've always loved organizing events. So this is a perfect combo. It's not a job that I at 16 would have ever thought was a possibility. I do think that's also a testament to just things tend to work out eventually. So yeah.
Really nice. I think that's a really hopeful and positive note to end on. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you so much for having me.